Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Bible Study Podcast, where we just approach a passage that we're teaching at all of the Bayside here in the Sacramento area and some other places. We just approach a passage that we're teaching on the weekends. We take a deeper dive and we talk about great hermeneutics and great exegesis. Today, we're in one of the best, wonderful, fabulous, famous Psalms, Psalm 8. I hope that you read all of Psalm 8 because it's definitely worth reading the whole thing. We're going to focus in on my favorite part. You're not supposed to really have favorites, Dena. And by the way, this is Dena Davidson. Say hi, Dena.
Hello.
It's just me and Dena. Usually we have a guest here today, but we invited several Bayside staffers that were too intimidated to compare their thoughts with Dena's.
Obviously.
So,
and your shirt may give a great clue as to the real reason.
The real reason is we're running breakaway kids camps.
1 million breakaway camps.
1 million, so everyone's very busy. But Dena and I are the sort that even when we're busy, we still love the Bible.
We still love the Bible.
Still love the Bible.
So true.
Some others just,
Yeah. Love kids more?
Yeah, exactly. All right, back to series. Psalm 8. I'm going to read the passage. This is so profound, so wonderful, so beautiful. Really, honestly, if you're doing anything but driving, take it out and read the whole thing. But here we go, starting in verse 3. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them. You have made them a little lower than the angels and crowned them with glory and honor. You made them rulers over the works of your hands. You put everything under their feet. Dena Davidson, when we approach a piece of poetry this beautiful, how are we to correctly handle it? What is the original meaning here and how do we get to it?
Yeah, I love this. I'm stealing this from someone in sermon prep, but they talked about how you really can't see the stars as well today as they would have been able to back in this time. So I think, we live in California. So I go outside and I look up at the stars and I see probably 15 of them. Right. I'm like, wow, that's beautiful and that's grand. And I feel my smallness. But for them, when they would go out and look at the sky, they would be seeing thousands upon thousands upon thousands of stars. And so much so that when God comes to Abraham and he's trying to explain the bigness of what God has in store for his people, he says, look at the stars. So if that's Dena Davidson and I'm reading, my time and place into this, I'm like, wow, there's going to be 12. That's amazing. So exciting. But it was God's way of saying there are too many to count. You're a part of such a big story. So I just want to start by saying unless you're growing up in a place where there's very little man-made light, you may not be able to grasp this psalm in the way that the original hearers would.
That's a great point.
Do you have any thoughts about that? What would it have been for a shepherd to read this psalm?
Absolutely. Every once in a while, you'll get some great photographer who does an exposure where we could see stars the way they kind of saw stars with no light pollution. And it's a great point. What you're doing immediately is what we should always do is you're getting into the head of the author, who is David here. David is shepherd. Mm-hmm. And here's exactly how I try to get this. Every summer we would go to remote Eastern Washington where my parents lived. And my parents had 5 acres and a big, huge lawn. And I'd make my kids come out and at about midnight, because everyone gets to stay up late in summer, and we would lay on the grass, just lay on the grass and look up at the stars. And even there's light pollution, but a lot less. Mm-hmm. And I would say, what do you see? And they would say, there's so many stars. It's so big. It's so amazing. You could see the wonder that you feel in this passage come over them.
Yeah. And
then I would say, there's something up there that none of you are seeing, and I want you to see it. And they would, of course, they got the answer after a few summers, and I'd say, it's the space between the stars. I'd say, if there were an infinite amount of time that has already passed, if the universe was infinite, it didn't have a beginning, it had always been. Mm-hmm. And if there was an infinite amount of space, the space didn't have an end. Then there would be an infinite amount of stars and an infinite amount of starlight. And there would be no space between the stars. There would be no dark at all.
Wow.
And I say, when you look at the stars, what you're seeing is that the universe had a beginning and that the universe has a limit. Wow. That there's more to this universe. And I think that's really what is happening here in David. David is laying on his back with his sheep already all asleep. And he's saying, when I think about your heavens, when I think about your heavens, I realize you're more real. Why in the world would you think of me, a shepherd? You are more real than my day-to-day distracted things to do life would take. So to me, this psalm is all about pausing and realizing how big God is, how much more real God is than we think he is.
That's so helpful. I think about this time that I drove from Six Flags back home, to where I was living in Nevada, and we can see a lot of stars where I grew up in Nevada, but there was still a lot of light pollution. And I remember my boyfriend at the time, husband now, Shane, he's like, let's pull over and let's look at the stars. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like, we've got stars. Why are we stopping? So he's like, no, let's pull over. And we pulled over and we looked up, and it was this one moment in a day that had been so fun and so full of just great memories. But I barely remember anything else that we did that day. I know we had a great time, but I remember that moment. I remember going and standing and looking up at the stars because it made me feel so small.
Right.
Like, I had been so in the depths of like what I was doing that day and in the memories, living in the moment. But that moment of pausing and looking up at the stars, just like you're describing with your kids, I felt so incredibly small. And I can't help but think that that is part of what David was getting at. And that every single person who had read this psalm and sung this psalm, they would have known exactly what David was talking about.
Yes.
The smallness that the vastness of the universe makes you feel.
By the way, do you know the Keith Green version of this psalm?
My dad loves Keith Green, but I cannot quote you a single Keith Green.
Okay. Please go look at the Keith Green. Okay. He's got a version of this psalm word for word, and it is so beautiful and so wonderful. So
Keith Green psalmate.
Obviously Romans 1:20 is the first passage that comes to mind. You thought of Abraham, which is a great passage too. Yeah. The one I would tie to this is where Paul says, for since the creation of the world, invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. In other words, when we see the works of his fingers, the way David says it, we see the stars, what he set in place, the natural instinct of mankind, very logical instinct of mankind is those stars were put there by someone. There's a design to those stars. So I've had the opportunity, and you're more educated on apologetics than me. I've had the opportunity of going to a lot of universities, and I'm always told, prove from the Bible, or no, prove without using the Bible that there's a God. And I'm like, okay, well, I wouldn't use the Bible to prove there's a God. I don't know why you want me to be self-referential, but I'll tell you what I would like to do is I would like you to pinch yourself because you're here. And then the argument is like, nothing, the universe can be created from nothing. And I'm like, okay, what do you exactly mean by that? Well, the physicists say that it came out of energy. What's energy? It's something. Where did the energy come from? Well, you just don't understand, Curt. No, nothing comes from nothing. We are in a time where there's beginning and end where we're at. There's something bigger than time and space. And this is what the psalmist, this is what David is realizing. Then he asks this question: what is mankind that you're unmindful of them? And I immediately, Dena, go to C.S. Lewis's term, which is chronological snobbery. Because this is what we think. Back then, they were just herding sheep, and they could barely make clothes. They're wearing all these skins, and they were dumb. But the truth is, a philosophical question like this, there's no smarter philosophical question than this question. This question of an ancient teenage shepherd boy rivals the greatest philosophical questions that have been written down by any philosopher throughout all of the ages. What if there's a creator? Why would you think of me? why would you care for me? And of course, the answer is because God loves his creation.
Yeah.
That we are created to be loved by God. This is, you could draw a line from here to the sacrifice of Jesus Christ for each and every one of us.
Absolutely. I'm blanking on his name. Is it Elie Wiesel, the author of The Man's Search for Meaning, Holocaust survivor? He wrote this incredible book, and he had this theory about anxiety. And he said that he thinks all anxiety is rooted in purposelessness. That when people have this undergirding sense that their life is purposeless, that's when they begin to feel anxious. And I'm thinking about this because we're obviously in such a mental health crisis. And just like you're saying, the Bible speaks to things that are exactly what we need far before we know we need them.
Right.
And so here is David asking that question of purpose and meaning. Why does my life have value in this vast universe? What is my purpose? What is my place in this grand scheme of things? And it's because the Bible asks these types of questions that it still speaks to people, thousands and thousands of years later. That's powerful.
Yeah. And he asks the question, and he doesn't really answer it, which also is very, very smart. He doesn't really just go A, B, and C. He's like, there is a mystery. The beautiful thing about God is that you cannot conceive of how big he is. The beautiful thing about God is you cannot conceive of the smallest things that he actually cares for, including you and I and everything going on in your life. It says you have made them a little lower than the angels. So we get a lot of angel and demon theology that's by inference in the Bible. Mm-hmm. This is one of those places where it really says something pretty direct.
Right.
You and I were created a little lower than celestial beings.
Yep.
We're in the list.
Yep.
Of valuable, incredible, wonderful things. Now, when we show up, people are not afraid of us the way they are of angels.
Right.
But we are, there's inherent value to us. And then we're given responsibility. You made them rulers of the works of your hand. You put everything under their feet. My brother Kerry was this sort of kid that all of his toys, he had like all this army set, and he had a cavalry set and a fort, and all of his toys would be pristinely placed, and you couldn't move a single one of them. And I would beg him every day. I'm like, when he'd go off to school and I was still 4 years old, I'd say, can I play? And he's like, no, I don't trust you with my toys. No, you better not touch it. You better not touch one toy, which made me touch all of his toys. And I got in a tremendous amount of trouble because I could never put them back exactly right. This is God saying, listen, I've made the most beautiful, incredible, amazing things. And I'm going to trust you to be the steward of them.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
Each and every one of these statements, making of the heavens, the thinking of mankind, the making of mankind, and the responsibility of mankind, they're all, you could do hours and hours of philosophical thought on each and every one. And here they are packed into 1/4 of Psalm 8.
That's right.
Isn't that incredible?
It is incredible. And this is a callback to Genesis 1 and 2, where God creates the world. So I'm going to read the passage because I think this is important as we're interpreting Psalm 8, because this is something that the readers of the Torah, they would have been intimately familiar with. They knew how the whole story started. It started in Genesis 1, where God creates the whole world. He creates animals. He separates the light from the dark. And then he makes human beings. And then once he created them, it says this, verse 27, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, and over every living creature that moves on the ground. And so he goes on, and what God is doing is he is bestowing on the humans stewardship. Exactly what we're seeing in Psalm 8. God has made them with a job in mind. He has given them this crown and glory and honor. He has put them as rulers and stewards over the earth. And I think sometimes that theology gets really, really lost.
Right.
We are so intimately familiar with the curse that work is toil and all the labor pains and all of the ways that the world has gone wrong. Sometimes we forget how God set it up, that inside of every human being is this imago Dei, the divine image of God, but also this trust, this call to steward the earth. And when we fail, we see our failures have an effect, because that's what it really means to steward.
Right.
You think about every kid. It doesn't matter how ill-equipped you are to be a parent. When you are a parent, you have a stewardship. You have a job to do. And that means that your child is not safe from your abdication of that role. So too, we humans, no matter how ill-equipped we feel for this job, no matter how broken, no matter how many damaged, how sinful we are, we still have this job. And when we fail it, even though we're made from the dust, we still have this ripple effect on the world. It's pretty intense theology. We have a place in this world, even though we can look up at the stars and see that we are so small.
Yeah, the thing about this verse, the stewardship of, we're rules over it, it's fairly controversial, because a lot of people would say, well, this has led to so many environmental disasters. But it's actually not true at all. Our calling to work in stewardship for the earth is a pre-fall calling, just like you said.
That's right.
Work is not a sin product. We are designed to work, and we're designed to take responsibility. We are designed to say, it's up to me whether this piece of land or this water or this resource or this animal does well or doesn't do well, whether these people get fed or have clean water, whether these people don't get fed or don't get clean water. And so this is why, as much as we try to live a selfish life, I'm just going to take care of me, I'm just going to take care of my kids, we are moved by hurricane victims. We are profoundly upset by the homeless problem growing. We have different ideas on how to change it, because inside of us, we know we're to be working to steward the whole thing.
That's right.
We have, I call this the burden of knowing. We know that we're supposed to lead.
Yeah.
And there's no getting around it. I think there's two types of work, Dena. I think that there is work that is tainted by the sinful nature, and that is the pulling of weeds. That is the outside the garden, dry, dirty, dusty, frustrating kind of work that every single person that's ever worked in an office space, on a construction job, in an emergency room, and we all know that work. Then there's this sort of work that has a higher purpose. You're not counting your hours and calculating whether you're getting overtime. It's a work that is intrinsically driven. And it's the sort of work that when you do it, it's a lot like Breakaway this week. Right. When you do that work, you go home, you're exhausted, but you get in bed and you feel great.
Yep.
You're
That's
like,
so
my
true.
life meant something today. I accomplished important, significant things. I got outside of the day-to-day distractible fight and struggle to feel more better than the other person next. I got out of that, and I somehow got into this place that the Bible describes as the stewardship of creation.
Yeah.
And when you get in that place, you could be exhausted and full of joy.
That's so good.
And this is, I think, David sees this all the time. David had both those different, he had the frustrating work, working for his father-in-law, and he had the beautiful, incredible work. Ironically, most of the beautiful, incredible work happened to him when he was not king and still just a boy.
Yeah.
And able to just worry about sheep.
And how different is David's understanding of a human being than the competing worldviews of his time, right? The gods are chaotic. We are just at their whims. We are nothing. And so that was their philosophy about human beings, is in the grand scheme of things, they got their smallness. They understood we are nothing.
Yes,
we are just subject to the whims of these competing gods. And all we can do is hold on and hope that they'll, their wrath will be appeased and they'll give us a good life.
Right.
So David rejects that and knows that that's not what the God of the Bible has said. But he also doesn't accept, this is David who is going to be king, or perhaps is king when he's writing this psalm. Maybe he's just been anointed. We're not sure. So he knows that there is this bigness in him. But again, he's not going to be all consumed by it. He can still look up at the stars and understand his smallness. So we have this great Christian theology in Psalm 8 about anthropology. Who is mankind? We are not nothing, nor are we everything. And we still, to this day, we see those competing worldviews.
Right.
Oh, I'm nothing. I'm dust. I'm just evolutionary byproduct.
Right.
I have no purpose.
Right.
I have no meaning. Meaning is whatever I say it is.
Right.
And then all the way over here is I am the divine.
Yes.
I am the all-consuming,
I'm a king,
most
I'm
important.
a queen, I'm a goddess.
100%.
I'm a god. I'm yes.
I am the universe manifesting.
I am stardust. I'm starlight.
And also I need a crystal somehow. So, right in the center of that lies this Christian idea of mankind, that we are small because we can look up at the heavens and understand our place in the universe. We are not everything, but also we are not nothing. We are crowned over creation. And how crazy that a shepherd boy, even talking to another shepherd boy, could be saying, you're a ruler. You've been crowned with glory and honor. You're just a little lower than a heavenly being.
Yes.
This is astounding theology in that time, and it's astounding theology in this time.
What an incredible contrast. Like you said, everyone, when this is being written, Bronze Age, knows their smallness. They know how vulnerable they are to the environment. They know how scarce food is. And he does have this great dualism in the passage. We're so small. Why would you even consider us? And yet we rule.
Yes.
And yet we are called to rule.
Yes.
I'm reminded when you say this, by the way, that's probably the best description of this. We should have started with that stanza description.
Yep.
That was the best description of what's really going on here. Paul says, do not think of yourself more highly, but consider yourself with sober judgment. And I've always taught the Thrive students, I said, listen, early in life, get this concept of yourself. It's neither good self-esteem or bad self-esteem. You don't say, I'm just horrible, I'm a sinner, I'm just a totally depraved sinner, and there's nothing in my life is redeemable, and nothing in my life is beautiful. Yeah. Even before you came to Christ, there's beautiful things in you, and beautiful things in life. And there's beautiful things all around us when people don't even see the beauty around us. And also, it is not high self-esteem. I am a kid of the King. I'm a son of the chosen one. I am Jesus counts my hairs every moment. That's how incredible I am. And for me, Jesus is continually counting because they're changing the number. It's neither one. The right Christian point of view, according to Paul and David, is sober judgment. Sober, not high self-esteem, not low self-esteem, sober esteem. So I say there are things I do well that are important to contribute to my family, my community, my world, my church.
Yeah.
And there's things I do well. And if I'm not contributing to those things, I'm not a good steward of those talents.
That's right.
And if I am lying about those things, I'm not good, let someone else do it. I'm probably lying for false motives just to take the responsibility. And there are things that I have blind spots about and that I mess up every time, and that I need to be vulnerable enough and humble enough to call out for help every single time.
That's right.
And both of those are true in the mature emotional view of the self. And here we have it, Bronze Age, Stone Age almost, wisdom in there. Okay, so here's my question for you, my last question, Dena. So when we're in the epistles, we're in the letters that Paul and Peter and John wrote in our New Testament, it's so easy to apply. John, love one another. Okay, what's the application? I'm going to bring muffins to my neighbor. I'm going to love my neighbor. It's so easy. The exhortations are direct. And then when we get into the narratives, it could be a little bit more obscure, like, okay, I guess I'm going to go slay some giants like David did. Or if I'm called to slay a giant, I'm going to realize that God is going to do it for me. So, there's a leap there, but you still can pretty much... When we get into poetry, it gets more difficult. So how would you apply this? What should we be doing after we read this?
Oh, Curt, I actually have so many application points. So I'm going to try to go rapid fire through them. Go. Okay, so first is we, doing apologetics a lot, we have a lot of, I think, this angst, like, oh, we got to go tell people that God exists. And that's like a young apologist, someone who's not really studied apologetics. Here's what we need to understand. Every single person knows that God exists. Psalm 8 says this: when I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place. Romans 1, which is a callback to Psalm 8, it reinforces this. If you've gone outside, you know that it points to something greater than you.
A river, an ocean, a mountain.
That's right.
Yep.
You've seen it. You've felt it. There is a deep knowing inside the human soul. And so let's start talking to our non-believing friends like they already know that God exists. And it's not our job to convince them that God is real, but to call that knowledge out. And the best way, every parent knows this, the best way to call out knowledge that's already there is to be a great question asker. Ask them questions. What are you longing for? What are you hopeful for? What's hard about life right now? Those types of questions will call out the knowledge of God. That's my first application point.
Questions. Love
The
it.
second is, do you really believe that you are small? Do you really believe that you are properly small? Because sometimes the way that we post on Instagram, the way that we talk to God about how he's treating us, I think we have a little bit of an inflated image of who we are. We don't post like we're expecting no one to like us and no one to heart that. We're obviously thinking we're quite wonderful and we need that reinforcement from others. There's something
That's a great point, and you should follow this podcast.
Yeah, and like me,
because
so
of
that I know
point.
that I'm so big and good. But honestly, there's a little self-image. I'm bigger than I'm supposed to be, that I think is in the water.
Self-promotional.
Self-promotion, and even when we talk to God, like, God, what are you doing with the world? Like, how come you haven't blessed my agenda?
Right.
Are you properly small? Really just deal with that question. And the third question, I think, is, have you accepted your crown? So you are small, but the dignity that you have in this passage is based on one thing. You've been given it. You have been given a crown. Have you accepted it? Because my crown right now has 3 names. It's Riley, Judah, and Luke. And if I'm not careful, I can be out there seeking a different crown, the Bayside Glory crown, the greatest mom on earth on Instagram crown, whatever it could be. But my crown is forming these 3 little humans into not sociopaths, but people that love and follow Jesus. That's my crown right now. Have you accepted the responsibility, the crown that God has given you?
So good. Because
it's your job to steward it.
Yeah, just to think that we've been crowned with glory and honor, that's too much. Okay, so while you're giving your applications, because Dena, you're always so brilliant, I was just praying.
That's why I said those things.
And I said, God, please don't let her take mine. Don't let her say mine, because she will say it better than I say it. But here's mine. When I consider, I think the application, sometimes we think of the application as I got to go fill the food pantry for the homeless. I got to go win that person to Christ and make the right argument, that person to Christ, or I got to go serve at church. And all of that is good. But just thinking is good. We're to love God with all of our minds, and giving room for thinking. What does it mean to be given, to be appointed, to be anointed, to be crowned with glory and honor? What is that responsibility? What does it mean to consider the creation and know that we're out without excuse when we see the creation? Do I consider the creation enough? What does it mean that I'm the steward of God's things? I'm not just a steward of some things. Your 3 children are God's, and every parent,
they belong to God.
Every parent that really, really cares about parenting comes to that conclusion at some point. That I'm doing my best here, God, but these are your children.
That's right.
And all of that takes time for thinking. And I think, we are not good at scheduling time for rest, but we do it. We schedule too much time for eating, probably not enough for cooking. We schedule lots and lots of time for making money and making sure our retirement is fine and, handling all the insecurity of financial provision. What would happen if we made time for thinking for considering. And I think what would happen is all of those other areas, our friendships, our parenting, our finances, our service, all of them they would come from a better place, and they would all become better themselves. So, lots easier said than done, though.
That's right.
Schedule that thinking in my own schedule. Bree, we're going to bring Bree on camera one of these days. Bree, who do we have next week?
We have
Rachel Annis, the amazing Rachel Annis from our Folsom campus. If you've not met Rachel, you are missing out. She's one of the best and young voices in our Bayside universe. I can't wait to get Rachel here in the room talking about Psalms
23.
23, yes. I'm sure you've never heard of Psalms 23, but it's about a shepherd, dark valley. It's
Little known song.
Also, Keith Green has a great Psalm 23
Lots
song.
of Keith Green references in this episode.
You can't stay the Psalms and not go back to the OG, Keith Green.
I'm going to Spotify him.
So, 100% tune in next week when we go verse by verse through Psalm 23. It's short enough. We'll probably do the whole thing. Yeah. And Rachel Annis will be here. Plus, would you do me a favor? Make some comments in there. I see a ton of you are hearting us. You're liking us. There's some shares in there. Great job. Way to go. We would love to get your questions. We'd love to get your comments, get your feedback. So go ahead, like, share, subscribe, all that. But get some comments in there.
Even throw in some Psalm 23 questions that we could actually answer.
We would love to answer them. And Psalm 23 is actually far more layered than you think, unless you've actually shepherded sheep before in the Bronze Age. So anyway, next week, Psalm 23. God bless you. Thank you for watching the Bible Study Podcast.